Hello, guys. So today we're sitting with Julian Goldie, the man, the myth, the legend. You've had a lot of drama going on right now, so thank you for chatting, and I appreciate your time, man. How are you doing?
Yeah, doing great. Thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Should be a good one.
Oh, of course, yeah. So we'll get into it right off the bat. The big story: Google new update. Some of your websites got de-indexed. And how are you dealing with the whole like storm that's happening right now with everything?
Yeah, I think during these sort of times, it's good to just cultivate a bit of stillness, because if you look at all these channels on social media, sometimes they can be a little bit negative or a little bit emotional, not in terms of just directed at me, but everyone. And I think it's just good to find a bit of peace, do a bit of meditation, do some reading in between, and you can't make any sort of sudden movements at this time. But yeah, it's an interesting time. I mean, I can recap on the story if you want for anyone watching, but essentially what's happened is my public case studies, along with a lot of influencers like Jackie Chow, Jesse Cunningham, I saw even niche site lady got hit yesterday.
Oh,
So
that's unfortunate. Yeah,
it's
she's a
pretty,
big Twitter presence as well.
yeah, that's it. And also, she had one site that was AI and three sites that were human written, and so
Yes.
they all got hit.
Julian, I was just discussing with Mark Mueller. I don't know if you know him. His interpretation of the update so far is that it's not even targeted towards primarily AI. He thinks it's mainly about brand and that kind of thing. So I definitely want to chat about that too, because at this point we don't know too much about the update. And so yeah, it is weird. I'm hearing people. Somebody commented on my YouTube video that they got hit and they had no AI content. So
Yeah,
definitely,
that's it. I mean, the other thing I would say here is, like, it wasn't like I got so I got a manual penalty for these
mhm,
sites and they got de-indexed, but it wasn't because of the methods of creating the content. It was because they were public case studies. So if I look at my private case studies, some of them
mhm,
attached to the same GSE, some of them totally away from the GSE,
mhm.
but they're doing fine. Like, they're doing better than ever.
Right,
So it's
right.
really just public case studies. But like I've always said,
And
it,
is Google targeting Julie Goldie?
I don't. I mean, there's no confirmation, right? But from what I've
Yeah,
seen, it does seem that way, and fair play to them. Like, it had to happen, because if you're so public with the strategies at work and you're getting like hundreds of thousands of views every month, then of course they have to do something about it. And I understand that. I've always said from day one, it's an experiment. It is risky putting this stuff out in public, and I have no emotional attachment to the websites. It's just like, I want
right.
to help people and show what's working, show what's not, and test it all out for myself.
Yeah, yeah, and I believe that, and that's what I find so cool about your content is that you're just sharing what has worked for you. So you're not saying that this is evergreen, like whoever it is, like Kroger shouldn't start doing these tactics on their website. But for somebody that's maybe in college and just testing out some marketing stuff, very interesting case studies that you're sharing on how to do these things. Definitely think it has benefited a lot of people. Um, I mean, it's definitely interesting. Me.
100%. Yeah, it's a very interesting time. And yeah, for me, I like to focus on facts over opinions. So I like to
Mhm.
test everything, see what works, experiment with these things, and just share it openly. And I'm not telling people to do this. I just say, discard what you don't like, do what you do like, and then test out for yourself. Like, don't listen to Julian Goldie or any other influencer out there. Test out for yourself and see what works, see what doesn't. And I think a lot of people resonate with that, because there's so many SEOs out there who say you should do something because it sounds good, not necessarily because they've tested it themselves. And so if you can show, right, I did this, here's how it worked. I'm not telling you to do it, I'm showing you how I did it, then that's quite a refreshing take that
It's
people.
really refreshing. Yeah, no, I think it's super refreshing because yeah, I mean that's kind of how it goes. Is in the SEO, there's so much just BS that goes around. Uh, I mean, Craig Campbell and even them were talking about like, times that people have just as a joke spreaded fake SEO knowledge and it just goes like wildfire. So seeing someone just share their screen and like showing what they're doing, it's always refreshing.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And also along the way, you just learn so much as an SEO. So I think the best way to learn is by doing. Like, quite
Mhm.
often it's not something that you can be taught, just like YouTube. Like, you can't be taught YouTube.
Mhm.
You have to practice it and get your reps in. And just by doing these things, you learn so much about how to do SEO and the learnings along the way. And you adapt from there.
Yeah, yeah. The knowledge you've gained, I'm sure, is invaluable. So, Julian, I do want to go through some of the nitty gritty. So, how many websites got de-indexed?
I think it was about probably 10, something like that, maybe more.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
and you have like around 100 or something. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I have a lot in the background, a lot of case studies in the background. So
And are you seeing any fluctuations with your private websites, or is it only the public ones?
only the public ones. Yeah, actually, one of the most interesting events about it all was that my personal website, juliangoldie.com, was
Mhm.
de-indexed and now it's been re-indexed.
Right.
And I don't know, it's such a strange situation. I've never seen that before. I've not heard of anyone else experiencing that during the update. And I don't know whether that's because Google thought it was a bit harsh taking down the personal website. I was pretty
Mhm.
grateful for that. I was like, number one, I have no resentment towards Google for anything that they do. They just have to
Mhm.
do this. But for me to see my personal website back, that's really kind. Like, thank you.
Okay, I can't be as nice. I think it's a little unethical for Google to engage in scare tactics, which they've been doing for since the beginning of SEO, right? Charles Flo, Kyle Roof. I mean, Kyle Roof, the lorem ipsum test is like that's just a pure test, right? He's not even trying to get traffic. I mean, why would you want traffic to a page with no content? You know what I mean? Like, it's not even spamming at all. Well, Parasite SEO can get, gray area, but yeah, I don't love how they do that sort of scare tactic where they target people and like it just feels a little bit too ominous, like propaganda, like, oh, you know this doesn't work, before they do it algorithmic. So
Yeah, Charles Float talks a lot about that on one of my recent live streams, about
mhm,
those sort of tactics. For me, I have no emotional attachment to whether it's good or bad. It's just like
mhm,
I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to rank on Google and make a living that way. And I think that's something we're blessed with in this age because, going back 30 or 40 years ago, you couldn't have an online business. You didn't have that freedom. And now everyone has an opportunity to make money, whether that's on YouTube or Google or online or whatever. I think that's a great thing. Yeah.
yeah,
But at the same time, what I would say is for anyone out there, like just having a level of diversification is going to protect you from any sort of situation where these updates come out. Because I think a lot of people are very fearful now and
mhm,
nobody knows what's going to happen. It's such a temperamental time. I think this is one of the
mhm,
craziest updates in years as well. And
I
so,
agree.
yeah, just having that level of diversification where you're like, right, if this goes down, I've still got traffic from YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, all these other channels, my Facebook group, email. And so
Yeah.
diversification and then also making sure that you capture the traffic that you do get because just as well, like if you get that traffic to your website, it's
Mhm,
not traffic you own yet. It's just
mhm,
traffic that you get. And so you have to kind of take that from traffic that you don't own into traffic that you do own by capturing an email list or a
mhm.
WhatsApp list or whatever you want.
Yeah, yeah, and it seems like you're doing that. You're doing it really well. I mean, so in your video, you said that you have like 96% of your YouTube traffic is actually SEO. It's actually Google search, right?
It's insane. Yeah.
That's
Yeah, that's it. I think this is a massive opportunity that a lot of SEOs haven't taken advantage of yet. And I can
mhm,
understand it because a lot of people they don't want to put their face on a video. I think that's one of the things. But actually, if you look at my most popular videos ever, it's usually not my face in the video and not my face on the thumbnail. People don't want to click on my face for some reason.
mhm.
I, I think this is
Have
one
you
of
tested it?
yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, I've tested like I think
Mhm,
one of the keys to YouTube actually is variation. So, like for
mhm,
example, you might have a thumbnail created with AI one day, and then a
mhm,
thumbnail created with your face on, and then a thumbnail with some
mhm.
analytics, and you keep swapping out and constantly reinventing yourself, and that's when you create that curiosity for someone to click.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that YouTube is a massive opportunity for SEOs. It seems a lot more
Mhm,
stable as well, and then also you're taking advantage of two different search engines, right? So you get the traffic from Google search, but you also get the traffic from YouTube. And the level of trust you build with videos is
yeah,
insane, which means that it's going to
yeah,
create more, people only buy from those they like, know, and trust. And so that's going to
yeah.
increase conversions and more money for you.
And with AI growing in popularity so much, and with the uncertainty of whether Google can even handle that, what may happen is I know that for me, like when I read content, I'm like, is it created by AI? That's one of my first thoughts. And if I'm watching a YouTube video right now, I know that it's a real human. And so that adds a lot of credibility.
Yeah, 100%. I think as well, you've always just got to add more value than AI can create, right? So, for example, people they want to listen to someone like Alex Hormozy versus a automated AI generated video because of the
Mhm.
brand and because of the attachment to that person, because they trust the words that come
Mhm.
from that person. And so, brand is a massive thing as well. And this is something that just it gives you the leverage to use AI, but to
Mhm.
build a huge amount of value on top of that.
Right. Right. And so I have a couple more questions on the situation with Google.
Yeah.
So one of them is I know that you shared that one of your public case studies still has Bing traffic in there. Are you seeing that for all of your website? Or Bing traffic totally indexed?
Yeah, I mean, Bing is totally fine. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
untouched. I know some
Yeah.
people who have been hit by Google updates in the past, and they just did not care at all because they actually got more traffic from Bing. Bing is like something no one else talks about, and it
I
kind of makes
know.
yeah, but it's a huge amount. I mean, I think 20% of search or something like that is from Bing, and that's probably only going to increase as Copilot gets integrated more and more into Bing. Like for example, I know that with Microsoft they launched a new keyboard that comes with
Mhm.
the that's come out with new laptops and stuff like that, where it actually has a shortcut for Copilot, and therefore it
Yeah, that's
encourages.
amazing.
Yeah,
And so what about your Parasite pages? Are they all ranking the same?
yeah, they're totally fine. Yeah, yeah, they all kept their rankings all moved up, which is quite interesting. But I think that Google have given an amnesty period of two
Mhm.
months. So I think it's like May the 5th. They've announced that that's when they're going to start hitting Parasite SEO, and they've
Mhm.
basically asked website owners to mark anything that is Parasite SEO and be open about it. You know, whether you mark it sponsored or whatever you want to call it. But there's a lot of confusion because it's kind of like, okay, does that mean that if I flag it, I'm going to lose the traffic on that? Or does it mean that if I flag it, I'm not going to get penalized? And I think that's something that massive directories have to worry about because, for example, if you look at, I don't know, something like personal injury lawyer, if you Google that, all
Mhm.
these directories come up, all these overpowered DR90s that are ranking on the first page of Google are coming up. And so they've got something serious to think about there. And they've only got a
Right.
limited time frame to do it.
Yeah, very limited time frame. We'll have to see what they do with Parasite SEO.
What do you think is going to happen with Reddit?
Oh, I know. I don't know. My intuition for Reddit is that in terms of Parasite SEO, it might just continue working for a certain period of time, or Reddit will, since Reddit has that deal with Google, Reddit will do something about it themselves. Because Reddit has such a good brand, and since they did that deal with Google, like Google's, I can't imagine Google just destroying their traffic. Like just like they're gonna do something about the Parasite SEO, or they're
Yes.
gonna let it, or they'll let it fly for a little while. But what do you think? You're more the expert in this stuff.
I mean, I think it's impossible to predict, but you can only see Reddit getting more and more traffic, right? Because if they've launched a deal with Google and Gemini's data, Google's version of ChatGPT is being trained on Reddit's data, then
Yeah.
there's a crazy partnership there where I'm sure Reddit is only going to get more traffic. I can't see them getting penalized, and they have to do something, but I'm not sure how they can track it. Like, do you think they would, for example, try and track like outgoing affiliate links and then remove those or something like this?
They could try to do that. So Reddit has always been a little bit more technically advanced, right? So, and they've always been a great place for information since the beginning of time. That's why people search, best camping gear Reddit on the Google searches, because people actually do trust Reddit, and it's a trustworthy place. So I do think they have incentive to keep it that way. And I mean, even like SEO Jesus Stuart Vickers, like he had one case study where he spammed it and ranked for like best SEO agency. And he told me he was like I felt bad about that one. He was like it felt dicey. I had to take it down.
This is why I don't use Reddit for comments with fake
Mhm.
upvotes. I just don't feel good about it.
Right,
Like there's I don't judge anyone that does it, but for me personally, I'm not going to do that, and I'm not going to promote it on my YouTube channel. Yeah, but
right.
I've made videos about like how the strategies work and what's going on, but I've
Mhm.
not like promoted that method just because at some point you feel not good about this stuff.
Yeah, it just feels a little dicey.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
like you feel like you're really manipulating people. And what do you can you go a little bit more into how you see the ethical side of like AI and all of this kind of
I
stuff?
think again, it just comes down to like adding more value than the AI can do, right? So, for example, for me, one thing that I always promote these days in like pretty much all my videos is the SEO checklist. And it's this checklist of steps that you can make to basically get that content and sculpt it in a way where it adds more value and it's more readable and it's got some personable elements that separate your content from everyone else. Because if we've all got access to the same tools, technology, and same prompts, then the only thing that differentiates you is backlinks, brand, and the editing that you do to that before you publish it. So I think this is the biggest thing. It's just making sure that it's differentiated from everyone else and editing it before. The way that I see it is kind of like Michelangelo SEO, right? You know, Michelangelo, famous sculptor, 1800s, Italian dude, painted the Sistine Chapel. And so he talked about how every block of stone, aka the ChatGPT content, has a statue inside it, aka that article that ranks, but it's up to the sculptor, aka the SEO, to see that and to mold it down. And you can do that with something like the SEO checklist, which I always talk about. In fact, if you want to give it away for free, there's a link inside your document. Feel free. Like I'll send you the link.
Yeah, for sure. Shoot it on over. I'm happy to share it. Yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting bits there. So first off, AI quality can change drastically, right? So there's one-click AI writers, and then there's like, one time I was just for research, like personal research, I was like asking about the Bible and stuff like this, and like it has so much content in its index that anything it writes about something canonical like that, it's going to be pretty good. Like you can ask it about specific sections, you can ask it to give quotes, you can ask it to do this and that. So if you really play around with AI, your quality of the content can get a lot better. What do you think about that in terms of like quality of content, editing content? I know that like I've used autoblogging before, and you're a big proponent of that. A lot of that stuff's fairly quick. It does good output though, surprisingly good, but very quick. So are you moving more towards like an editing sort of phase? How are you looking at AI SEO in 2024?
I can pull up a couple of things if you want. Share my screen and go through it.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
You're getting me excited now. Sharing the secrets.
This is what I do. Yeah. All right. So here's my SEO content quality checklist. And basically this takes you from that block of stone, aka the ChatGPT content, and then helps you mold it down into something that's a lot more quality and has that editing and that human touch that I think differentiates the quality of your content by a massive amount, right? So for example, it literally takes you from step one, which is making sure you create a good outline based on reverse engineering competitors. And you can do that with AI, right? AI is really powerful for that. And quite often you don't even necessarily have to create the content with with AI writers. You can use your own common sense in creating the outline and then go from there. Now, what I'd also say is like, this is something that a lot of people specifically using ChatGPT totally miss out on, which is addressing the search intent of Google, right? It's like figuring out, okay, what are people looking for based on what's already ranking and then going from there. So this whole checklist, it takes you about 15 or 20 minutes. It takes you from choosing the right keywords to finding the right search intent, running it through Grammarly, putting every sentence on a new line so it's nice and easy to digest, adding some pictures, formatting the text, checking the FAQs, keeping the introductions short and straight and to the point, and even like fact checking it as well. Yeah, and this is something that I've promoted a lot recently. I know I'm quite famous for the autoblogging related content. Well, not famous, but I'm well known for that. And I always advise this process along with it, but I think that gets missed in the message. So yeah, it's quite an interesting one. And then when it comes to actually creating the content on ChatGPT, there's two things that I like to do to make your content different and stand out. And this makes a huge difference, as I'll show in a second. So number one is including some personal information about you in the customized ChatGPT section, because again, that's what differentiates you from everyone else, right? It's like, what perspective or what lens is the content being written through? And then additionally, I've created this humanizing prompt in the how would you like ChatGPT to respond section. So like no fluff, nothing cringe, every sentence on a new line, etc. And I'm going to pull up Copilot versus ChatGPT, and I'll show you how different this is. It's absolutely crazy. So if we pull up Bing right here with ChatGPT 4 built into it, right? And we say something like, tell me about SEO, all right? And we'll do the same thing inside ChatGPT 4 as well with the custom instructions. So that's the only thing that differentiates the two. And so you can see you kind of get this generic fluff right here on Copilot on Bing, and it's okay. I actually don't think it's that bad. Like compared to a human writer that you get on Upwork, who's like maybe $50 an article, that can be 10
Right.
times better. I don't know how many times you've hired off Upwork or Fiverr and that sort of thing,
Yeah.
but usually this is just one big block of text.
Uh-huh.
And there's
Uh-huh.
like grammatical mistakes, there's factual errors, there's no sources, etc. So I still think this is actually better than your average human writer. But if you compare it to, say, this piece of content that we've got from ChatGPT with the humanizing prompt and the instructions of writing it from my perspective, you can see how it uses metaphors and storytelling to make the content a lot more interesting. Plus, it uses language that feels human, right? Like here's a breakdown, and then it gets straight into it, uses some metaphors again, like imagine you're telling about, your friend about the best coffee in town, etc. Like it just feels kind of a lot more human and conversational, right? The tone that it's written in. So if you have the right prompts and the custom instructions, you absolutely fly it. And then you run it through the SEO checklist as well, and you can create really good content.
Right. I think a lot of it from my experience has been, how you do that outline and then also creating outlines at scale, understanding your audience, like the search intent, exactly what you're saying. Understand your audience and how to create actually good content with it. Also understanding the topic too. Like you might know about SEO. So, hey, can you expand more on like off page, or can you expand more on page? Can you look at this or that? And kind of guide it towards creating more of an article. Yeah, I think you can have a lot of good articles written. Of course, I don't know how they're currently ranking pretty well, but do you think Google will be able to algorithmically somehow check this or anything like that?
I think it's going to be very difficult. It'd be very expensive to do, but also I don't think that Google has a problem with AI. I think that from what I've seen, a lot of human sites got hit during the core update. For example, like Niche Site Lady, 3 of her human sites got hit. It's just
Right.
like public facing case studies. And then also there were some spammy sites that did get taken down. I don't know if you saw those. For example, there
Yeah.
was a huge list on Blackout World. And
Right.
yeah, I can understand why they're getting hit too. But I think whether it's AI or whether it's human, they both work. And it's just a
So
case of how do you use them.
right. So in that case, what do you think the update is really about?
I think number one, it was about removing. I don't know. I honestly I don't know. Like it's still early days.
Yeah,
I
it
don't want to
is.
say. Yeah, it's such early days. I know for sure they went after a lot of influencers because my public case studies got hit, private case studies didn't. Jackie Chow same. Public case studies got hit, private case studies didn't. And it's not about AI because, for example, Niche Site Lady, 4 sites, 3 of them human, 1 of them AI, all got hit. So it's not about that.
Yeah.
It's about public case studies. So that's number one. Number two is that this is not an algorithmic penalty. It's a manual action penalty, which means that there's been manually people reviewing these sites or just marking them as spam. So that's the other thing. But I think it's just about Google trying to clean up in a way. It's just the second and third order consequences of all these sort of actions can create chaos.
Yeah, and one thing that I've heard Kazra mention is that oftentimes you see these manual penalties before a Google update, and so at first I was thinking it was more just the case that they were just targeting people and they didn't know how to algorithmically check stuff. But what they may actually be doing is getting their algorithm to identify certain websites and then manually reviewing what the algorithm outputs and then giving manual penalties. So we might actually see. I don't think in your case, because your case they were just doing, as far as I can tell, scare tactics, and they were trying to get people to not use the SEO strategies. And fair enough, it will work to some degree. I think that will work less now with YouTube and everything because we're talking about it right here. But it will work to a degree. But I think, we are going to see huge movements in this update. Mark Mueller, who I've been chatting with, thinks it's a lot about brand and about having someone behind the website. So on a lot of AI websites, you have no one behind the website. It's just kind of some random niche topic, about snakes, birds, right? Whatever it is. And you don't really have an expert or an identity behind the website. So maybe they're just pushing more towards the EAT stuff. But at this point, it's definitely all speculation, but still interesting, right?
Yeah, it's a super interesting time. I think, like you say, it's all speculation, and you can't really. It's so early to judge. Like it's not even been a week, and we've still
Right.
got another month of this. So let's see what
Right.
happens. Yeah.
Let's see what happens. We might be in a different situation in the months to come. So where do you think we're going to speculate some more? So where do you think SEO and digital marketing is going in the next 5 years with just everything we've seen so far?
I think if you look at the bigger picture when it comes to SEO, I don't know how efficient searching on Google right now is. Right. So right now, you have to type in a keyword, you look at 10 different results. It takes a lot of mental energy to figure out, okay, what's the best result to click on? And then when you actually click on that result, you've got to hope, fingers crossed, that you've landed on the right site with the right level of authority and that it's actually useful content. This is very inefficient. The way that I see SEO going in the future is that actually you're not optimizing for Google search, you're optimizing for maybe Gemini or ChatGPT or inside the actual AI. And you're feeding it data that has all these different data points, suggesting that you are the top expert or top result in that niche, right? Because, for example, if you go into Gemini now and you're looking to say hire an ads expert, you can go into Gemini, you say who's the expert on ads. It will give you a definitive answer. It will break down the top 5 experts with no fluff, and then it will link to the relevant person. And I think that's a lot more efficient because you're not trying to differentiate between 10 different results and like hoping and praying that you've landed on the right one. However, there's still ways that can be manipulated with data, like I've talked about before. But yeah, that's the way SEO is going, in my opinion.
Yeah. So you think it's moving towards the AI chatbots?
Yeah, exactly. Or some form of that, right? Like in 5 years, the way this technology is evolving and the speed that it evolves at, it could be totally different. It could be something I never imagined. I don't like to make predictions about the future because no one knows, and usually even the experts are wrong. I think statistically, experts are wrong when they predict the future. So
Right, right. Yeah, that's usually the case. But it's interesting to talk about, especially in your situation where, man, I can't imagine how much you've played around with AI.
a
Like
lot, a lot.
you're one of the like you just spend all day just playing around with AI chatbots and content and all that stuff.
I think
You
if you
also, I'm sure you're also running an agency, so I don't want.
Yeah, exactly. But actually, like the agency, it kind of runs itself, I would say, at this point, because you've got about a team of 50 people, and they very capable people that can manage the business and keep it running and keep improving it better than just one person, aka me, could do. So yeah, at this point, it's just a case of learning the technology, I think, because if you're running an SEO agency, there's a lot of threats. Like I don't know if you saw it last year, but so many content agencies got hit. Some of them got wiped out of the game, sadly, and this happened like within months. And so if you're not interacting with this technology and understanding it on a daily basis, then you'll get left behind very, very quickly. And so that's why I started using AI so much. And I think even when I'm not using it, a lot of my mental energy is dedicated to think about it and thinking about ways that you can leverage it to improve things. And not just on the SEO side, but on the marketing side, right? So for example, last year I had a big team of marketers and my brand was maybe 0.5% of the reach that it gets now. And so if you can leverage AI in the right way and you get the right systems and people in place for that, you can scale AI not just for SEO. Like that's just a tiny little fragment of it. You can scale it across everything and turn people who are capable and motivated and quick learners into people who are like superhuman because they have these tools and technology. That's the absolutely insane thing.
That is absolutely insane. Yeah. And it does expand past SEO for sure. I mean, content creation in general, we're going to be seeing, I mean, we might be seeing a birth of a whole new form of spam as well. Like TikTok videos that are AI, like whatever it is. And I think right now, I love how in your recent video, you went into a lot about diversification. You spoke about it here too. Like, yeah, you need to be doing, at least have knowledge about, YouTube SEO, how other algorithms work, because these other algorithms also influence Google. So, like, the way that TikTok and all these social medias are using user engagement signals seems like Google is moving more towards that too, right? So that could be another aspect of this update, you know. So a lot of interesting areas.
Massively. Like, for example, if you look at SEO, well, actually, if you're creating content around other channels, like, for example, YouTube or Twitter or LinkedIn or whatever social media platform you're using, well, number one, that's building your brand, which is going to help improve your SEO rankings anyway. For example, even just your branded search, like that's an immediate impact. And then additionally, yeah, diversification. And then thirdly, as well, by creating a brand and not just focusing on SEO, you're feeding the AI different data points again to suggest that you are the expert or the authority on that topic, which in the future, when AI decides, okay, how do we show the best person for this search result? They're going to feed in not just from Google, but from all these different places on the internet. And so by building a brand, you create a sort of fortress where you build more and more authority and it compounds over time.
Totally, totally. And I think you're doing that with Julian Goldie as well.
Yeah.
There's so much content now around you, just on YouTube and across the internet, LinkedIn, right? All of your different platforms you're building on. That yeah, the AI will be fed.
Yeah,
That
100%. Yeah, I think again, it does create this fortress where you're mentioned everywhere and you get so much exposure. And the good thing is as well, it just creates massive diversification.
So, Julian, I have to ask: do you plan to try to recover the lost websites?
That's an interesting one. I was thinking about that this morning. I was like, what are the next steps on that? But for me, I want to see how it plays out first and then take action. For me, I don't want to rush into this because I think you, like any update, if you rush into it, you can make mistakes without fully understanding all the options and all the data available. And if you act too quickly, I like to move fast. But if you act too quickly on situations like updates, you get into the error of making emotional decisions, not logical ones as well. And so you have to sort of step back, look at the bigger picture, and then go from there and get all the data that you can. I mean, like every day or every hour, even there's new updates on this. There's new case studies of sites getting hit or sites going up, and so that's very interesting as well. Gives you
It's
more
been
data.
so interesting. Yeah, it's been so interesting because I'm talking to a ton of people right now who are sharing some websites, showing what's up, and yeah, it's just amazing to see the different kinds of websites getting hit, and what could be the main causes as we see this update roll out. And of course, if you want to be updated on all of that, I'm sure Julian as well, but we're going to be posting a ton of videos on the update just as we see it, see what's happening as we get new knowledge. So make sure to subscribe, all that kind of stuff if you're interested. But yeah, it's a crazy time to be in SEO. It might end up being one of the bigger updates.
I think it's never been more interesting to do SEO. I don't know about you, but obviously doing this for 7 or 8 years now, there's times where SEO can feel very slow and stable, which is amazing. But
Mhm.
when it's like this, it's extremely interesting to see, okay, what happens next? And it's evolving at such a fast pace as well. Like you look over the last 12 months from ChatGPT 4 coming out to now, it's absolutely insane the way the internet's changed.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I honestly I stay up at night, and I'm sure you do sometimes too. Like I stay up at night just thinking about AI, thinking like playing around with some stuff. Um, I'm working on my own sort of AI type thing with the developer. Like, oh man, it's gonna change everything. I know Seth Godin recently said that it's a bigger innovation than the internet. Don't know if that's true. I'm not even a big Seth Godin guy, but it is a similar innovation to the internet, and things are changing. There's no doubt about that.
There's a lot of fear as well. I mean, I was speaking to one entrepreneur I know who's very successful, and he was saying how he feels at this point it's like kind of the last opportunity to make the level of wealth that most people desire, which is quite an interesting one and a scary thought at the same time. So you just don't know because once it moves like this, it's too late, right? Like
Mhm.
everything can change. The way people search, the way people use the internet, the way people interact with each other. It's not just about
Mhm.
SEO anymore. It's about the whole world and the way the world interacts.
It really is because we get stuck in our SEO bubble, but
Yeah.
it's really about the internet this time. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think we're quite lucky as well because usually SEOs or people who have an online business, we're usually like 2 or 3 years ahead of the curve, right? So the way that we consume the internet now is usually how everyone else is going to consume the internet in the future, right? So, for example, if you look at the way that a lot of SEOs don't use Google anymore, like they prefer to get their information and learn from YouTube. Like I don't know about you, but when was the last time you read a blog post like from sentence to the end?
Oh, okay. I did read one recently, but that was for a very specific problem that a friend sent me. So I didn't find it on Google search. Yeah, it's not very often. Usually I'm actually engaging with ChatGPT more often than not.
So
ChatGPT more often than not.
same. But for me, it's like most of my time for learning
Mhm.
is usually from ChatGPT or from YouTube. I rarely use
Mhm.
Google anymore. And I just wonder, okay, Is that because we're ahead of the curve and that's how everyone is going to use the internet in the future? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of questions there. I could definitely see it changing. So far from my speculation is I think there's going to be at least a period probably in the next 5 years of like a dual use. So what I really like in the Google app is that on the top, if you've seen this, they have both, Google search and AI and Gemini. So you can switch between them seamlessly. And same with Copilot where it's in the browser. Because there is cases where like search makes sense. For example, like ChatGPT so far it just never gives me good product recommendations. I'm not saying Google is amazing at it and tons of affiliates and all that, but like every time I tried to use it for shopping, it's really bad at it. It'll just recommend me all this kind of like random stuff.
Yeah,
I'm like, even when you use the apps or you do anything like that, they might come out with an AI that's better at it. I hope. But for right now, if I'm buying something, typically it's Amazon or Google in terms of searching for products. So I think we'll have a period of dual use, but we'll see. It's going to be a lot of fun.
definitely.
Yeah, man, I'm excited. So you went in a little bit how you're planning to do AI SEO. Do you have any advice for people that are getting into this kind of thing? They're getting into AI SEO, getting into SEO. Like, what do you think for those people?
I think just test it yourself and see what works, right? The only way you're really going to learn is by doing. And if you listen to everyone else, you'll be easily influenced without really having the facts. And that's how people get misled. And then that's how they get into problems later. And so just have to test it. Don't listen to what I say. Don't listen to what Patrick says. And just test it yourself. Like I think it's good to get inspiration and ideas and see how things work. But you only truly know when you focus on facts over opinions.
100%, 100%. And I think that's what this new era of YouTube is about. Just actually looking at what works and just playing around with stuff. Especially in this age of AI. Like we can talk YouTube, we can talk SEO, but there's so much innovation in AI. Like you got to play around, and especially if you're going to be more of an internet marketer too. So like, there's normal marketers and then there's internet marketers, and you can go anywhere with it, right? You could go on YouTube for YouTube, Google search. You can do like TikTok. You could try to do AI on TikTok, on Google Shorts, like whatever you want. Like you can try to experiment with it and just see what works. I think that's a great ethic to sort of push. And I see it with your YouTube content too, Julian, like that sort of ethic throughout it, experiment, test, here's what I've done, try it out yourself. I like that.
Yeah, it's like this is what works for me. If you want to try it, you try it. The other thing, I see this even with YouTube. Like so many people reached out to me and said you need to change your thumbnails because at one point I was just literally just changing the text on a Canva, and it took me like 2 seconds, throw it up there, and then it's like okay, you'll get a lot of opinions, and a lot of people will reach out to you and tell you okay, you need to do this, you need to do that, but you have to separate the opinion because they're just telling you what's important to them. They're not telling you what actually works. And no one can tell you what actually works. You have to test it for yourself and get the data. So for me, for example, what I like to do if a thumbnail designer reaches out to me on YouTube is say, okay, let's try it. Let's do a thumbnail test right now. And I'll split test their thumbnail versus mine. And that's quite an interesting experiment as well.
That's a very interesting experiment. I love that because I'm just starting to get those emails where they're like, hey, like I'll promote your YouTube. Like I have the magic sauce. I'm like, no, you don't, dude.
Yeah,
But
I
maybe
mean,
I'll test them. Maybe I'll test them.
the problem is that a lot of people when they reach out to you like that, they'll try and make you feel silly for not doing it their way, or they'll feel overconfident about what they're saying. And so that's why I always say just test it out for yourself. Try it, see what works, see what doesn't. You don't know, and no one knows. The thing is, well, like every YouTube channel, every website is different, right? So, for example, if me and you create exactly the same video with exactly the same content on exactly the same title with exactly the same keywords, we'll get totally different results because Google sees different channels as different authorities, and also different things resonate with your audience versus mine. And additionally,
Exactly.
what feels authentic to you might not feel authentic to me, and therefore we've got totally different channels that are going to react totally differently. So how can someone come out and say you need to do this, you need to do that?
I completely agree. Yeah. It's super interesting. Yeah, we'll have to talk again about YouTube SEO stuff because I think it's so interesting. Just the whole YouTube game and how you've been just killing it on YouTube. It's super interesting.
Yeah, it's honestly like I never dreamed that I would get this level of reach. Like, and honestly, the amount of people who reach out to me every day, like thanking me or supporting me, it's insane. Like, just to see that level of positive impact is amazing. And for me, honestly, I used to like go to sleep kind of dreaming that I'd be one of the biggest names in SEO. And I'm not saying I'm one of the biggest names in SEO now, but just to see the growth over time is absolutely insane. It's amazing.
It's amazing. Yeah. I mean, dude, you're up there because I think people from our era in SEO, like we used to idolize like Matt Diggity and people like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Like those were the like previous generation. And man, you're almost at Matt Diggity's level. I mean, you might I don't know, you might have more traffic than him. I don't know how many traffic. But
Uh, Even though
no.
G, like he's always mentored me actually, Matt. He's been a great help for me, giving me a lot of good advice. I had him on the channel and so many people reached out to that and said what a good interview it was between me and him. So I was pretty happy with that. For me, it
Mhm.
was like when I was getting into YouTube and I was getting like 200 or 300 views a video,
Yeah.
I'd see people like Neil Patel, Brian Dean. These were the
Mhm.
guys who were absolutely killing it. And now you don't see
Those
them
guys.
anymore. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. You don't see them.
You don't. You don't. And actually, if you look at Neil Patel's content now, it's more like digital marketing focused. It's not so much
Mhm.
focused on SEO.
Right. Yeah, and those are the guys like Neil Patel, Brian Dean, and Matt Diggity. And Matt Diggity was by far the best. I feel like I gotta say Brian Dean, he misled me on some things. Just in terms of link building. Like once I found out the truth. But yeah, no, it's super interesting, man. I'm excited for 2024 and seeing what happens. Just keeping everyone posted on things and like, experimenting.
I think as well, the way content is going is like the more AI becomes prominent, the more people crave authenticity, right? So, like for example,
Mhm.
you look at say the transparency of someone like Jackie Chow, who just pulls up his
Yeah.
numbers. He's like, "Here's how much I earned today.
He's
Here's
just eating creatine. Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah."
like
Actually,
what, man?
I saw his live stream today, and he was saying like he was trying to get
Uh,
as many Twitter haters onto his video as he could, so that they have to watch him drink creatine and then see that he actually only lost like 10% of his revenue.
yeah, that was amazing. I watched that as well.
So
I was just impressed. He only lost like 10% of revenue. I mean, I don't know if that will change, but impressive.
yeah, I think that comes down again to the diversification, right? So like if he only focused on one or two websites at a time, it would have been game over.
Yeah, yeah, I do think that's a critical point for sure. Something that a lot of SEOs don't think about much either. Get really honed in on Google. They don't even think about Bing, like you mentioned.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. And I'm actually quite glad that I set up Bing Webmaster Tools. It felt
Mhm.
hilarious at the time setting that up, and I was like, "What am I doing on Bing here?" But actually, when you see the clicks, you're like, "Wow, this is way more than I expected."
Yeah, I have a client getting I think it's 200 clicks a day on Bing. And then of course Bing did something crazy and like that went down by like 50%. So we had to like it was a weird situation because we had to do a traffic recovery campaign on Bing. So it was such a new experience because I was like, wait, I have to think about like how Bing operates differently than Google because Google traffic was so high.
Yeah.
So it's crazy, man. But yeah, dude, Julian, you're a really authentic guy. I appreciate the conversation. I had a ton of fun. So yeah, I appreciate your time, man. This was great.
Thanks for having me on. And like, honestly, that video that you made, because we didn't talk before you made that video, but it was
Yeah.
just like it was such a refreshing video on it, and I really appreciate that. I appreciate you being a client before, and thanks for everyone watching and being supportive.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I like I said, I hate to see Google kind of doing scare tactics. Like I want us to be all updated on the update, as silly as that sounds, and know what's actually getting hit and what's not, and not just them penalizing websites as scare tactics. So yeah, it's good. We'll all I think keep an open dialogue in this. But thank you, Julian, so much. Everyone should go to Julian's channel, check it out. He's doing some cool stuff. We're on the up and up, so it'll be fun. Yeah, so check out Julian. Do you want? I mean, I assume you're just promoting your YouTube channel, but anything else you want to promote?
Yeah, I mean, just check out my YouTube channel, see the video, see if you like it. Go from there. Yeah. Make sure you subscribe to Patrick's channel as well. I think you've got a really bright future, man. Like your videos are taking off. You've already got a lot of traction, so and you're doing some good stuff.
Thank you. That means a ton, Julian. I appreciate that. Yeah, and Julian's also doing an SEO mastermind kind of thing. He does link building. He has a link building agency. As we mentioned, I've tested out his links; they're solid. And yeah, so pop over to his channel and check his stuff out too.
Yeah, cool.
Awesome.
Oh,
Well,
just before you go as well, I'll send you that SEO checklist. So if anyone wants to implement that, see it, they can just click on the Google Doc and get it from there.
cool. Yeah, that'd be perfect. Awesome. Sweet, Julian. Well, you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks, brother.
See you. Bye bye.